Welcome to the Whistle Time and good afternoon, viewers, or wherever you viewing us. I want to say it's yet another time to have you in this very discussion of the sports. And of course, it's the Whistle Time on West Nile TV. And I want to say my name is Owen, and a couple of stories that we'll be discussing, including, of course, one of the games that are not really commonly in the region and, of course, in the country. We'll be ignoring and, of course, get more about that. But, of course, Sports Club Villa has also got in White to come and see that, of course, assembles the team of Sports Club Villa. The question would be coming, will they, of course, sustain this? Couple of things will be coming through. But, of course, Champions League also, you did see games being played and Manchester City riot. Let's get to biggest discussion, one of the actions, of course, sports activity that is not common in the Western region. Of course, in Uganda at large is badminton and not forgetting also the baseball. Let me usher in Oscar. Oscar, most welcome. And of course, this is where I would be starting from. Badminton and baseball is not commonly played in Uganda at large. What could be the reason for this not to be a big game in the country?
Well, thank you so much. And of course, speaking up from there, my personal opinion is that I think the association of baseball and badminton have not done enough, especially to popularize the game throughout the country. It's not by mistake that something like that happens. It's due to the efforts that people really bring. I think when you talk about softball and baseball, they are a little popular compared to badminton. Badminton is a little not known, especially when you come to West Nile. I see a few people who participate, a few people who actually do train, and these people are centered in Arua. So the other question would be, are the federation is the federation doing enough to make sure that they bring these sporting activities down to the people? I think this is one aspect in Uganda that has not been so much focused onto. That's why I think maybe one of these days I should start looking at Uganda from a perspective of being in another country, maybe something like that.
Again, you repeat yourself.
Yes, because you look at badminton, time and again there are tournaments at continental level, at international level, that you find Uganda is sending representatives. But you ask yourself, where are these representatives got from? And again, there are always funding that comes throughout the international body. They always give out some money. And then you get to ask yourself, where do these monies start and stop? And of course, I know as National Council of Sports, always also government of Uganda through the National Council of Sports always give funding. And I believe that the people who are in charge are supposed to actually come down and try to disseminate that information and try to get down to the people. I mean, the best way always to enroll a sporting activity is by starting it through either through a primary school, through a primary competitions, or through the post-primary. You actually focus on schools, because you can get to these people and you try to enroll a few. You start with the 4, 5, 6. The idea is because it's very easy for a school to adopt, because they literally have every academic year they have budget for sports. And then there should be a tournament that is organized that can motivate the young boys and men to make sure that they get into the game. And besides that, the real information about the opportunities that lies in this sector. What will someone benefit if they give up their time, or if they venture in this kind of activity? I think those kind of things are not motivated. They're not being put outside enough. There's not enough publicity. Also, leaving that aside, I think the last time we saw something about woodball was when you and I covered. That was way back in 2019, I think. I think the national the national tournament was held here at Golf Course Arua, hosted by Muni University. But you ask yourself, did Muni University even send a team? All what I saw was a primary school, like I think Arua, Arua demonstration. I saw Niva Primary. I mean, it just starts and stops there, as if these schools or these particular teams are just selected to come and play, or schools that are organized will just come to get their medals, get their awards, and they go away. It doesn't look so much organized for me. And those are some of the factors that I feel does not make the game so much popular.
Don't you think one of because if you look at this, there it needs your understanding of the game that will come in there. Don't you think very many people don't understand this, and the few who are there are limited to certain areas that they cannot really make sure that this goes viral?
Well, the other factor still comes back to publicity. The other problem I know for sure in West Nile and northern Uganda and parts of others is that many sports journalists actually don't know about badminton. Even very few know about golf. Others are just not interested. Others think they're carried away by what they think is trending. Particularly, most people will feel comfortable to come and generate topical issues about football because maybe that's where their passion is. And unfortunately enough, it is still termed as sports. Rather, instead of saying football show. But I think in developed countries where there are various sporting activities and all of the sectors, Ghana, at least people have a lot of specialization. You find somebody is a journalist in sports, but he's measuring in football. That is where his area of specialization is. There's another one who is measuring in Formula One. You will not engage him on football. He only wants to talk about Formula One. There's another one who is covering tennis. He's very knowledgeable in tennis. Another one is covering basketball. He's knowledgeable. The other one is covering maybe woodball. The other one is covering softball. So that the other one is covering rugby. So it comes down to specialization. But I think specialization only works well where there are well-established leagues, well-established sporting activities, development in the terms of infrastructure. But here, I think it is very good to have diverse knowledge in all sporting activities, at least the basics. You may not know it all, but at least the basics, and of course, that also gets to lazy journalism. That's one of the things in West Nile. I think the whole of Uganda, lazy journalism is the most trending type of journalism. It is not yet part of the journalism that you learn, but it's the most trending part of journalism instituted by journalists, simply because they only want to get carried away by what others have written. Generating their own is an issue. But you can't do much to fight it anyway, but still it gets down to the basics. You as a journalist, what do you want? How do you want to be different from the others? So the issue why some of these things are not so popular is because most of media houses, most journalists are singing, talking, praising, and writing football.
Writing football, but of course I think because yes, it takes you some time to come and know about something, learn about something, understand about something, and all this comes to the people who of course have come up with such sports activities to come and of course give you more knowledge. We've seen clubs and all the federation or the football federation coming on board and to organize media trainings in there.
It's true. I agree with you on that. I think the best way to try and get something popular, sometimes we maybe are being too hard on sports journalists, but I think access to information. Because I can't be much more interested in covering a game of woodball, but where do I get the information? Who should I contact? When you know that you get down here, you know that there are very few people who are participating, and you don't even know the president of the federation. You've never met him. How do you get to know what is happening where? I think that's one of the things. But again, that can be so much handled when you networking. You as a journalist, you're supposed to have a vision where, because you own information, you disseminate information. You're supposed to, how you get it is what makes you a genius. where am I going to get this information, makes somebody wonder how did he even get to know about this. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, especially baseball and softball. I think baseball, the softball have been a little popular back in the days, in the early 2000s when I was at the college in St. Joseph's College in Bachi. I think we used to there used to be tournaments organized, and of course from regional level. Of course, there are few schools who would participate, but I thought the trend was okay. You should see Logri girls. There was Mandela SS would come in. St. Mary St. Geoffrey girls, Mooney girls. I think those are the few I can mention. Sometimes I used to also see Obatini, but I don't know how frequent it is. And you get to the boys category. I think I used to see Ombachi, Vara. I don't know. I'm not so sure about Nile High, but I think after the school level, there was a tournament that used to be organized in Jinja. They would always go to Jinja after there. But again, the underlying factor for me was, according to my experience, because I was at the college, and I say this without any fear of contradiction, that yes, much as the baseball was much more popular, but again, it had a very negative thing for me that I really did see working out well, because when you look at the composition of the players who were playing, one of the qualifiers was you're supposed to speak Luganda, which was a very bad thing for me, because even the trainings are done in Luganda, and most of the guys who are participating were actually those who used to call them Lugaragandas, which was not good for me, because I don't like people speaking Luganda. Luganda is a language that is in Uganda, which is very good. But again, when you are doing something like that, you are supposed to make it diverse, just like football. Anyone else can participate, because if I am to come, I may not understand the instructions you are giving, because I don't understand that language. I think that was one of the disqualifier for me, for many people who would have loved to join basketball. And again, I think by that time, Obachi used to have a very good basketball team. Vara used to have, but the other thing has been, you see, there's been that segregation that if you don't have swag, you can't be in baseball. So basically, it was dominated by the Acholis that were trending. The guys had the money, the guys had the swag. A guy can come with a sneaker of about 200,000. But way back in 2001, 2002, where would you get all that money? You're supposed to have that swag people are talking about. I mean, the terminologies are okay, but that swag, I thought for me that was too much of a hype.
Just to get on that, don't you think this same thing is one thing that has affected the basketball? Because basketball, you also need to come with that swag.
Yeah.
Maybe very many people also in the region are not so much in the basketball.
Because literally, I think it's not a game for struggling. Yes, you're supposed to have something because you used to dress to the occasion. But I think the hype was again a little too much, high school excitement. But I'm proud that some of those guys who played at that level, some of them were playing for UCU, others for KIU, others are playing with Deji University. I mean, that was a plus for me, and I thought if schools would build on that, it would be a good thing. Likewise, even volleyball, the school used to have. I think Ombachi is one of the schools that invest a lot in various sports, including Vara and other schools that I may not easily think of. But I think that culture is way going down. But in terms of using languages, I think we should be able to be a little dynamic. It is not bad to use maybe Lubarati because you have a section of people who speaks that language. It's not bad to use Luganda. It's not bad to use Acholi. But I think when you have 2, 3, 4 people from different tribes, maybe now you're trying to use, you can balance the language. Say, okay, we use 60%, maybe a language that everyone understands. Maybe the other 40 can be for communication internally. If I know I would like to communicate to you, there are some things I can best say to you in Lubarati than to say in English, maybe. So I think those are some of the things. But in actual sense, West Nile has the potential. I don't think that there's any sports discipline that cannot attract any talent in West Nile. Softball, baseball, woodball is just coming down to the publicity and the investment that can be put into it, the goodwill for the players to come and to put themselves into these activities is always there.
And of course, we talk about the sports officers in the cities, in the districts, and all that. Do you think they have done enough to make sure that such sports activities also come in such regions, different regions, not only in West Nile? We've seen also other districts suffering, Rukunjiri, where, but they are not really there. But and yet the talent is hidden in, of course, the community.
Well, sports officers, the little I know about them is that their office seems to be something that maybe attracts a lot of attention. People think these people are supposed to be the ones to do these things. But again, I think their role starts and stops somewhere. Maybe with the mobilization, making sure that they create these teams, and the funding literally is not there for them. You may find in a whole financial year, sports budget maybe is not given, not even up to 10 million. So it becomes very hard. But what they do, I think they give the technical guidance to make sure that these sporting activities are initiated and it is run. I think the other challenge for me is that the National Council of Sports is way too much centered in Central. And I thought that they should be having maybe regional offices, and they should be having offices actually up to the districts. And at the district level, I think they can be actually engaging the sports officers much more better. I think that one would work. Then at region, they can create an office. Then districts will be coordinated at that level. So I think these people, sometimes we're too much hard on them, the sports officers. But again, their level again comes to sensitization. I think that is their role. What the football clubs are supposed to do. In not to fight with the DFA, because now that one would be a little different. But I think they are charged with that responsibility of make sure that they popularize these games and they institute the committees. But the other challenge will come in, you can't handle and do sports effectively when you don't have the money. Maybe the other factor has been that we have not had investors who are so much interested to come and develop this, maybe partly because they don't see potential in us or somebody taking a lead. You know, for something to succeed, there has to be somebody to take a lead.
All right, that's one of the biggest things that, of course, we had to discuss. But a lot's still coming. One of the biggest comes in a way that clubs or players or sportsmen in this very country have also got their chances. After all this, they retire. After having the games, they retire. Now, after retirement, what have they done for themselves? What have they succeeded in their normal life after football or after athletics or after boxing? Talk about any sports activity. We're taking a break. We're coming back to discuss this with Oscar, the Brazilian, and this is West Nile TV, the Whisper Time.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back from that break, and I want to say let's start from where we left. Of course, a couple of sportsmen and of course have tried their level best, but they have not, we've seen them retire and at last nothing is known about them. Are there any players, any sports person you've seen that has succeeded after maybe having an international sting, after having a professional sting, after having everything that he or she has done in this sports world, but they are in amidst us? Is there anything that, or are they successful after the life without sports?
Well, not so many that we could really think of, but I think the most common factor for me has been that not so many of them have succeeded. Because if you look at, by far, I think in modern era in West Nile, I think the only player who has succeeded, according to the ratings, is Samson Siza Okuti. In fact, the only sports personality, maybe if you took away
Maybe in Zikuru.
Dokas in Jikuru, but from that I don't see any other, because when you look at Samson Siza Okuti, I think his life after football may not be as disastrous as some other people actually have been having theirs, because I know he has really done some investments. He has some rentals. He has a permanent house where he's staying in Vara. He has a family, and I don't know what he's going to choose to do after, but I think maybe he will choose to venture into coaching. But I also see him, he's a poultry farmer, he's also a businessman. I think he has by far planned himself better than any other person I have really seen in West Nile. When you talk about teams, players that actually started playing in the league, by far I think in Arua, when you look at the guys of Arua Young Stars, I think that was the crop of players that really put Arua way ahead when they were playing in the Super League by then. But I recently met one of the players who played, they played in the early 90s. But when I look at him, I just see misery. I last had a chat with him. I'm forgetting his name, but I think he's one of those we are supposed to bring here. He's now visually impaired. He doesn't see. He actually literally is struggling to survive. But this is somebody, when you sit with him, he will tell you how the evolution of football has been from where they started, from how the Leo Adras started being their coach, from how Barifa was once so popular and getting to before even Dokas in Jukuru. But I really see much of them struggling. Let's cross over to our neighbors, Paida. Let's look at the crop of players who played for teams in Central. The current head coach who was appointed, Nega Oguse Abraham, when you look at him, I don't think you really see success, because they played football at a point I expected them to actually to be outside. He may not be at the level of the Siza Okutis, but I think they were the pioneers. They were amongst those who really went to the Central and played for a long time, played with Police. Let's look at the chairman of Paida now, Lewin Pich. Pich played for a very long time, meaning the Coca-Cola. He played with Paida SS. After Paida SS, I think Ediofe Hills came calling other Father Aiko. They went there, they played with Samson Siza Okuti, and then from there he went to KCCA. Things did not work out well for him. At one point now he was used as substitute goalkeeper. You know now what that means if you're being used like that. Then after there, Dudu Bosco qualified with Arua Central to play in the Super League. By then he was also called. He played alongside the likes of Orom Shangvila, but not so much. But when you look at these players outside football, their life does not reflect success at all. So the other question would be, why is it that way? I think it comes to one thing: planning. You need to see ahead. You see, most of our players don't plan. They look at money as if it's money from gambling. I think sometimes it's good, as you are playing, you need to also keep studying. I must appreciate Nafian. I think he has put a lot of interest in study, and he has studied, he has even graduated. So that means after football, maybe at the age of 30, 35, he can think of getting into some other thing because he has the knowledge. Apart from only even going to school, I think financially our players are very poor planners. They are very, very poor planners, to the extent that you find, okay, a player knows I'm going to get a sign-on fee of 10 million. Now, if you can get sign-on fee of 10 million, can't you buy a plot of land? You know, land is the only item that does not depreciate. It always appreciates. So the value keeps going higher and higher. Can't you buy a plot of land or plots of land like with 8 million? And then from there, after you buy with the 8 million, the 2 million maybe you can use it for other things. And of course, you know the character of players in Uganda. They only sign 2 years contract because they're looking at the next
another
sign-on fee that's going to come. So our players are very poor planners, and of course that also comes with their lifestyle. That lifestyle of I am known, everyone is talking about me, I am a celeb. You attract too many things. Your spending culture goes so much high. You spend on those other type.
You need to spend like a celebrity.
No, those are the type of people. Those are the type of people you spend on. I mean, it's always it comes down to that, and of course some of them get so much consumed by this lifestyle where when you're a celeb, everyone wants to associate. The females want to associate with you at all costs. The males want to associate with you at all costs,
and the others
as well. So I think our players have been very poor planners. Their lifestyle has actually been extravagant. And of course, they don't look at life after football. You don't know that football, when you get to the age of 30, 34, now beyond that, you may not continue. They are very poor planners. And several other factors that could actually come in. Others maybe also, they have never gotten that good move that can earn them something. So there's so many things.
Let's look at players. Yes, not only footballers, but athletics and other players in there. What could they do to make sure that they can still sustain or they can still keep life normal after football? Because maybe after any sports activity. One, you've seen players, some of the players abroad have image rights, although they're off, but they still have something running in there. We've seen one of the European players who played for big clubs, but he has been suffering after football. Of course, he was taken to
Emmanuel
exactly. Now, some of these things are happening. So what should be done, really? Let's look at this, because what exactly can these sportsmen do to make sure that they still have something to do after? One, you talked about education. What about others?
Well, the others comes to sensitization, especially. I think that is where FUFA should take the lead. If in case of football, FUFA should take a lead in seeing how they can sensitize the players. But I think we're even going far. I think clubs should make sure that they take the lead in professionally advising and sensitizing their players that they need to plan themselves well. They need to act as professionals. Where need be, you can have somebody to manage your finances. But on the other side, for me, I think it also comes down to the individual characters. There are some people you will not be able to control.
Change.
Whether you want to do what, you can't really change them. So FUFA coming in to sensitize, but again, I think it all comes to the basics of what we talked about yesterday. It comes down to who is your agent. That's where an agent becomes very important. Who is your agent? Because the agent will have to play the role of a father, have to play the role of a guardian, have to see how this person should be able to guide you, what you should do. Because now you're going to see a minor, let's say, Adevadi is going to be given a sign-on fee of 30 million. In his life, he has never earned 30 million. So he has earned 30 million. Don't you think his life is going to waste? That's why there's no employer, even if the salary scale for you to earn is 2 million, there's no employer who's going to start giving you 2 million. What they're going to do, they'll first ask, previously, how much were you earning? If you are earning if you're earning 200, do you think this employer is going to give you 2 million? Because he or she will know that you literally run mad because of money. So this person will have to be giving you that money in phases. So maybe you are going to start with 500. Of course, I'm graduating from 200 to 500. That is something. Then from there, gradually you take you to 800. Gradually you take you like that. That's how it is to manage. So I think it can be a deliberate thing, maybe for an agent or for the parent or guardian to say, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you this amount of money. We shall be giving you, like if you're earning 1 million, we shall be giving you 400. The 600 will go into your savings. Something like that can best help for the future, because you're looking at this player's future. Yes, this is your money, but we are keeping it for you in this, and you'll be getting your 400. The other 600 goes into your savings to help you for the future. I think that one can best help.
Now that's one big thing that is happening. But if you look at what has the government done for retired players, retired sportsmen, we saw promise of the Barifa Stadium, which is still there. We've seen Bangalore for Dorcas Njikuru somewhere here. You've seen how it is, and there are very many. Talk about people who have been there. The Andrew Mwesigwas who have been for the club. There are no talks about them anymore.
Let's leave alone Andrew Mwesigwa. Do you talk about Dan Wagaluka? If you meet Dan Wagaluka, you would not know that that was a former Uganda Prince International. I mean, it comes down to what we're talking about. Didn't plan himself well. He just doesn't look like somebody who has ever been at that level. But one key thing for me is that if there's anyone I keep referring to is Andrew Mwesigwa. Andrew Mwesigwa has planned himself very well. When he went outside to play football, he got his monies, but I think he looked at what will my life be after football, and how can the community benefit from me as Andrew Mwesigwa, both indirectly and indirectly. He has a school that he has, a secondary school that he has constructed, and the school is running. And I think that was one of the best ways of making yourself useful.
Sandru, it's called Sandru in Masana Flugala.
Yes.
That's what it is.
He has a football. He also has a soccer academy that actually deals in young talents, tapping and nurturing of young talents. I think that's one of the best ways of continuing your legacy, making the community benefit from you. You know how many sons and daughters of Uganda will be in that school to benefit because of his initiative? How many people will benefit from his academy? I think he has done a lot. But to ask how much government has done, you know, government cannot just come up with a plan like we are going to be giving, or when because he has played with Uganda Prince, we're going to be giving him 200 million per month after you have retired. The most important question is, when you are playing, how did you contribute to the country? That's the most important question. You find, I've always seen government rewarding. Dorcas Njikuru competed and won. She was rewarded with some money. There was some promise of Barifa, though it's delaying. I don't know much about it. How much, when the government intends to do that, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing for follow-up still. Why has the Barifa still delayed up to date? On the other side, I think the home was constructed for her, where currently I think the Mira office is. Though also UNRWA has come out to say there is a road passing. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I think the government has done something in rewarding these people for their hard work. Of course, you always State House dinner. People go there, get some good money, and of course that is a thank you. The Kipro teacher have always been given something. Of course, when you
given a car.
Yes, when you win gold, that gold will go into the reserve of the country, the gold reserve for the country. So you've won something for the country. So I think government rewards hard work and successful people. So it's always a challenge that when you into something, know that you're representing the country, that hard work you're going to do can be rewarded afterwards, and you would actually get something.
Maybe next time we shall be asking questions about how exactly, why is it that most of these, let's talk about the athletics people, most of them are in the forces. You're seeing them very, very much. And of course, they are working people who are there. Why not someone like me who is from down here and that? We have just seen that with only Zikuru.
It's not only
Shida ladies, and then we've seen some time back, of course, people who have come in there. But of course, I'm saying
even the Peace Proscovias.
Yes.
One, it comes to what we have been talking about, the development that we see in football. You see why those guys that side, these talents are taken away from them. Just like even the men's netball that they have actually gone to participate to compete in South Africa. These players were drawn from established institutions who have had established leagues that these players have been participating in. That universities they always spend much more into sports. You have the UPDF, you have the Maroons, you have police. They have that aspect of sports that is they carry on year in, year out.
Yeah.
But when you get here, which institution is invest beyond the normal calendar of sports? It's not there. Does Muni University has a reliable athletics team? Do they have a reliable netball team, a reliable football team? I think maybe they're yet to do that, but I think for now we don't have them. Even UCU Arua here. And talk about that. How can they organize when there is not even no single tournament organized for institutions within? That is made year in, year out. Like you have football for institutions, I don't think it's there. Netball, so I think we are yet way far.
The inter-universities.
Yes, we are yet way far away from getting all these leagues consistently running, so that if the national collapse come in, you look at if the Peace Proscovias were here, if she had not left maybe Mvara to go somewhere, was she going to get something? So I think we are yet far. Some of these things, these problems are just within us.
I think West Nile, we need to do a lot to make sure that, of course, we also seen in the limelight, because a lot is really happening, and we are lacking behind. Just a few names who are trying so much to cross over, but because of that, we still have big talents, much talent in West Nile, but the exposure is not there, and that's the reason why West Nile TV is right here for you. We're lighting up the region, and it is a whistle time now. When we come back, we are going to be crossing over to international stories, and of course the UEFA Champions League is one of that big story we shall be talking about, but of course not forgetting also the stadiums that are coming up in the whole world. Is a public fund really is using public fund. One of the key things, is it good for to build up a stadium? That is the question we will be asking. And of course, you can always follow us on our YouTube channel. We're streaming live, and channel 477 on that is the Star Times decoder. Stay hooked, don't really touch that dial.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back from that break, and it is still the whistle time right here as we cross over in there. But of course, this cuts across even in Uganda and of course across the world. Now, it is one of the biggest reasons someone will be asking a question is, of course, public funding of a sports stadium a bad idea? That is one thing, Oscar, I would love us to discuss about, because we have seen this happen. Some of the investors have their own. We are seeing Arua Hill Stadium already go under construction, and then of course other stadiums are in there. So is public funding a bad idea to for building a stadium?
Well, I think let's put it in terms of infrastructure. Let's look at various infrastructure, especially in sports. I think public funding is the way to go, is how we are going to develop. And you see, in this, very many people don't understand this simple trick. It's in economics, it's called the stone soup theory. Very few people actually in Uganda had known about it, but across the world, if you studied economics, I think it is something that has been practical, where I come up with an idea in the stone soup theory. It doesn't mean that like DI is with the Arua Hill. It doesn't mean that Aita is using his money. He's not using his money. What he does, I come up with a very good plan. I say, okay, we are going to build maybe a 60,000 capacity sports stadium, that where you can play football, can be played there, baseball, softball, basketball, athletics can be done there. Where can we put it? Maybe we're putting it, let's say, in Arua. Now what you do, you sell these ideas to prominent people who have the money. Now these prominent people, you're going to lease this thing to them. Tell them, okay, maybe in front there is going to also be a business complex or a business center, so you have in a strategic place, so we're going to be giving you the spaces for maybe rent. Banks will come in, hospitals can come in, clinics. So yes, so they'll tell you, for you to get this space, you need maybe to give us 400 million. For a businessman knows, if I give 400 million and maybe for 2-3 years this building will be mine, I will not be paying rent, that's good business. So if you get 20 or 30 people who each are going to be giving you 500 million, that's a lot of money. Tell me what you cannot do with it. So it is basically a very smart way of doing development, of mobilizing funds or mobilizing the public to come and to give money to a trusted person who has the integrity and who has the capacity and the knowledge to actually create development. I must appreciate him that he has done a very good thing, bringing something that not so many people thought of, and somebody will think even, how did he do it? Because to mobilize against somebody, to convince somebody to give that amount of money, it's not something easy. It gets somebody who is a genius, and I know he has done that well. So public funding is I think you should be putting public funding comes to the government aspect, but when you put it in the aspect, I think it's private funding. Private funding is good, and of course public funding comes in a way that government should come directly to invest using our taxes that we pay. But again, this one comes to the private way of funding development, which I think is the best way to go, because the government always gives a priority, and the priority is always given up in a development plan. Government always comes up with a 5-year development plan, because our political year runs for 5 years. So that the development plan, the government will come up with, we need maybe drugs in the hospitals, we need this road to be constructed and tarmacked, to be actually graded and tarmacked. We need to invest maybe in softwares, maybe for the ICT sector. I mean, there's actually a lot in that. That with public funding, but the private funding, I think, to me stands out. With the example Arua Hill has actually come up with. If we are to embrace that, I think we are much more going to develop faster, because it has been proven that in that way, countries, communities and the corporations develop faster when they bring all their funds together. It is always used in a positive way. So the stone soup theory is the way for us to go if sports or any other thing is to develop in this region.
And of course, I want to say, what could be the reason for Nachi Football Stadium to delay in this? If you look at Nachi Football, because it's one of the stadiums that is funded by the government.
So that's where the problem comes in. You see, if the government if it's a public funding, it gets tricky. But if it is an individual, if you gave me your money, I should construct for you a pit latrine, and I told you after 3 months, you think I'm going to let you go easily? I'm not going to be waiting for that kind of excuse. Hey, we didn't have this material. No, because you would have calculated as an engineer that this is going to take us this period. Maybe at this stage we are going to be handing it over to you after it is completed. And that pressure and the monitoring aspect is actually to the dot. Somebody will not give you the gap because they know this is your money. Likewise, you see how why are private schools performing better? So to me, I think the issue of Nachi Football is just because it's a public fund, it is a complex thing that you will have to go through KCCA. Someone will tell you it is this so and so person to follow, and maybe this person is yet out of office. The engineer has told us these. There are several other things that somebody will say. But if it's a private thing, you get to know why the construction of Arwagan is going so fast.
It could be a very big discussion, but of course a couple of things also come. It comes with the merits and the disadvantages that come through India. But let's cross over to Champions League games. The first, of course, this was the second day where, of course, the UEFA Champions League took place. Now, of course, a couple of games were played with Club Brugge against PSG, which ended 1-1. Manchester City beating, of course, RB Leipzig by 6 goals to 3. Atletico Madrid against FC Porto 0-0, and Liverpool, of course, tried so much to win against AC Milan 3-2, and of course, Besiktas against Borussia Dortmund. Borussia Dortmund won the game by 2-1, and Sporting CP against Ajax Amsterdam was 5-1 for Ajax Amsterdam, and then of course Sheriff beating, of course, Team Shakhtar Donetsk by 2-0, and then International lost to his team, of course, Real Madrid. Very good start for Pep Guardiola and his team.
I would love to start with Ajax. I love that jersey because it symbolizes the reggae for me. It makes it very interesting for me. Because the strip there shows a little bit of something connected to Jamaica. I thought that was a very good thing for me of how those people want to connect. Because when you talk about Jamaica, it's like you're directly talking about Africa. So I love that jersey. In fact, I think it's the first jersey I'm going to buy this year.
Maybe we shall be coming here to put on a different start.
Yeah, I'm just hoping so, because I just want to have that jersey. It's a nice one, a very good one for me. But coming back to Manchester City, I think Pep Guardiola knows that last season was not a good one for him. I mean, losing in the finals, and I think that was the first final Pep Guardiola is losing, and it was the first final he went to after at least I think 4 or 5 years. The last time, not only 4, because the last time he won was with I think against that final against United.
Yeah.
That double head against against United. But I think he played out a good game, though. I think defensively, Pep Guardiola's team was very poor, extremely very poor for me. The people are always talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, ABC, blah blah. I think in Europe this time around, according to that game, showed to me that Pep Guardiola's team at the back is really lacking something. I thought Jon Stones and Ruben Diaz, they did a lot last season. I don't know what happened. Maybe RB Leipzig were against too good, because Christopher Nkunku getting a hat trick, and just look at the way the goals. Some of the goals just came way too easily for me. Especially now, you look at even the first, just the 3 goals came out too easily for me. At one point, Kevin De Bruyne I was looking frustrated. How did that goal even just enter? Because it just looked too simple for him. And of course, I could understand his frustration that it wasn't a good one for me. But if you look at the starting lineup for Manchester City, I thought it was not even way so different, because you had Joao Cancelo as a left back, Alexander Zinchenko, in fact, Joao Cancelo as a right back, Alexander Zinchenko as a left back. I thought these are the same players Pep Guardiola used, and they were very good equally in transition, offensively and defensively, and in that speed to achieve that transition. I think it was a good one, but I think there was so much lacking. Nathan Ake, yes, he got the goal. Ruben Diaz, I thought should have actually done better because he was a senior player there. But in the midfield, Kevin De Bruyne returned, Rodrigo anchoring the midfield, Bernardo Silva, and of course up front Riyad Mahrez, Jack Grealish and Ferran Torres. To me, the most underlying factor for me was Pep Guardiola's team match as the one. They were extremely very awful at the back. Their back line was leaking too many goals, and some easy goals, by the way, someone would say. Maybe what would happen if Pep Guardiola's team actually went a man down. I don't know what would really happen, because the defending to me was so awful. I thought they should have actually done better. But I think for RB Leipzig as well, they did well. They did well, only that I think they were frustrated by, I think Angelino's sending off was, and again, another thing for me. But in actual sense, I think in final third of the pitch, those guys were extremely better than Manchester City. The defenders looked to me a little, the players in the final third looked to me a little better. They played a 4-2-3-1. I know they have a new coach, an American, who is soon to be sacked because his level of performance is really not good for me. Playing with Willy Orban, I thought Willy Orban should be a player now. Willy Orban is getting rusty for me. You know that they let go of two of their centre backs. Dayo Upamecano went to their rivals Bayern Munich. And then you had the other Frenchman who came to Liverpool. So I think losing two central defenders in one season, I thought was not a good one for me. Of course, now playing Muchi, Willy Orban, Klosterman, Angelino, not so bad. But in the midfield, I think Adams and Lemar. I thought Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva overpowered them in the midfield, because Jack Grealish also came on board. But Olmo, Forsberg and Kuku, I think they did the damage. They did the best for me.
Our time is running low, but let's do this only for this. Is it all about having good players or the tactics? Because Club Brugge held PSG in a 1-1 all, where of course you had all the front three that everyone could get scared of. But of course, the coach Clement had everything to make sure that he frustrated Pochettino's PSG. Is it all about having the good players, or it is all about the tactics of the game?
As an aspiring coach, I think it's both. You need to have the good players that fits in your style of play, and you need to have the right tactics to make these players win for you the games.
Someone said a good player makes a good coach. Do you agree with that?
Not 100%, because there are equally very good players who have failed in coaching. Thierry Henry has yet failed in coaching for now. He's one of the best players. When you look at others who have actually not done well, I think the other one is Hernan Crespo is not doing so well. Who else?
We saw this Man, is it Gary Neville? Not Gary Neville, but
Gary Neville, yes.
Gary Neville is one of them.
Even Phil Neville. He's not one of the best. Benny McCarthy is trying his best. But all the same, I would agree partly and also disagree. But when you look at the players who have really done well, good players, to me, I have, according to my ratings, in my opinion, there is no legend I would ever praise, both in his active football playing career and then in coaching, better than Zinedine Zidane. He has shown it all. He has won everything as a player and as a coach. as a player from Juventus, from Real Madrid, I think he won almost everything. If you need goals, he will score it for you. If you need the skills, he will do it for you. You want him to control the game, he will do it for you. He came out of retirement and took France to the World Cup 2006, and only to lose against Italy in Germany. He came back after he left Real Madrid, still took from being a coach and from being assistant to the current coach now, that is Carlo Ancelotti. They won the UEFA Champions League as an assistant. He came back, won it as a coach for 3 consecutive. There's nobody in history who has ever won back-to-back UEFA Champions League apart from him. So to me, he has been good. But when you look at very good players, extremely very good players, majority of them don't succeed. But average players, majority of them are succeeding. A typical example is the current head coach of Tottenham Hotspurs, Nuno Espirito Santos. Very few people know that he won the UEFA Champions League with Jose Mourinho at FC Porto, and he was a substitute goalkeeper by then. A very average player, but again, he's one of those who are playing very good football. Another one who was not a very good player. He was not extremely very good, but again, not also so bad. Was Mauricio Pochettino at PSG. Was not so much of a much hyped player. Was the captain. Pep Guardiola was not so much hyped, but again, he's succeeding. Another person who maybe had a successful spell was Johan Cruyff, the late. Very good as a player, and then tactically also succeeding as a coach. So Alex Ferguson didn't have a very good playing career. Jurgen Klopp did not have a very good playing career. RB Leipzig, Bayern Munich coach right now, Julian Nagelsmann, did not play in a competitive league.
Let's get to that, but of course a couple of things are happening, and people still keep giving that. Of course, everyone is entitled to his or her opinion, and if you say good coaches, good players make good coaches. That is what Oscar is saying. For him, he gives it not even 80% of it, so he has doubts on there. But let's get to this. Today, UEFA Europa League will be in play, and of course Tottenham Hotspurs will be playing against Rennes, and then Leicester City takes on Napoli. Those are some of the games I could be giving you right there. And before we say bye-bye, let me take it back to Oscar as we say this to, that is, our viewers in there.
Well, I think the game with Liverpool, maybe Liverpool fans, they are very passionate. They had a fairly good game, but I think AC Milan was also good of the night. Ante Rebic was actually tried his best. I thought Liverpool's approach to the game was not so good for me, especially at the back. They linked those two goals again easily. I thought the pairing of Joe Gomez and Joel Matip was not that good, and I know Jurgen Klopp wants to be extremely very careful with Virgil van Dijk, that he doesn't really want to
risk him this time, lose him
to risk Virgil van Dijk. But I think Liverpool still fairly has a balanced team for me. Naby Keita, Fabinho, and Henderson, not so much bad, and of course the pick for me was Divock Origi coming back. In that team, and Mo Salah, of course, missing from the penalty spot, and again coming to score. It's a good start for him, where he left from last season. I would love to see a massive change in Liverpool, and of course AC Milan has a very good crop of players, and I believe that AC Milan, given a good manager, I thought Jose Mourinho should have taken over at AC Milan. They equally have very good players. Frank Kessie, the Ivorian, Ismail Benassa, the player who was the best in AFCON, the AFCON that Algeria won. He was one of the best players. And if you look at others, including Theo Hernandez, I think AC Milan is shifting away from the AC Milan used to know, where they used to have Wazais to play. And on the other side, I think in the midfield, I know one other person that really played out for me was I think in the attack, I think Ante Rebic did it for me. I think the other factor for me is they needed to bring Luka Jovic would be a very good addition in that team. He has failed at Real Madrid, and I repeat, these youngsters are not good for Real Madrid. Go there when you establish, And I think the most consistent foreign player as a striker who has played for a long time is Karim Benzema. And if you go there, you know that he's going to be the GOAT. Nobody is going to displace him easily. But all the same, forward, Dandu Cheken, on Chicken waste of time, and can remember Tino, you can do.
I would say thank you so much for watching Whistle Time on channel 477 on the Star Time decoders, and at the same time we are live on that is the YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Stay right to your TV, and of course waiting for the next program that is coming in through here. Don't touch your dial.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.